to halt this genocidal process, to preserve Palestine and its people.
Very early on, since the Nakba 1948, it's not only a question of the land being occupied and us being expelled. There was a cultural erasure.
Nizar Farsak is a lecturer at George Washington University and helped create the Museum of the Palestinian People in Washington, D.C. Farsak says the amount of destruction only makes preserving and showing Palestinian culture like the museum in D.C. does an even more important task.
With the level of devastation that we've seen in Gaza, including the very explicit and unapologetic announcements by different Israeli officials, we know that our culture is under attack, and therefore we're going to have to double down on protecting that cultural heritage. We're trying to create our own museums that speak to us.
Much of Gaza will need to be rebuilt when the war is over. In May, the United Nations said that there was an estimated 37 million tons of debris in the enclave. That includes historical sites or places linked to Palestinian people's culture, something Farsak says will require creativity to rebuild.
Taking into consideration our 75 history of what we suffered under the Israeli occupation, and how can you build a more sustainable, resilient cities and towns, one thing that's going for us is that, in fact, Palestinians have been famous for being exceptionally resilient.
Before he helped open the museum in D.C., Farsak advised senior Palestinian leaders in their negotiations with Israel. Based off that experience, he says the future of Israeli-Palestinian relations is unclear.
Ultimately, of course, there's going to be a ceasefire and there's going to be a political resolution. My worry is that the level of trauma and the level of injury that the Palestinians have sustained is going to make Israeli rapprochement a very, very long order. It saddened me. I mean, I'm 50, and I have to say this is the worst it's been.
Right now, there is no plan for the day after in Gaza. Israel's military operations in southern Gaza and Rafah have forced almost 1 million people to flee hostilities and bombardment once again. As long as the conflict continues, conditions in Gaza will continue to get worse, and that includes the condition of irreplaceable historical and cultural heritage.